Hey you guys, our reading skill of the week is compare and contrast. Compare means to tell all of the ways two things are alike, what they have in common. Contrast means to tell all of the ways two things are different, what makes them not alike. This is a picture of a Venn diagram. It's usually what we use to compare and contrast. In the middle where the circles overlap is where you list what the items have in common. The outside circles is where you list what they have different. Look at this picture of the helicopter and then look at the picture of the airplane. They do have some things in common, but they also have things that are different about them. Let's use a Venn diagram. The helicopter is yellow, it has skids and 3 windows. The airplane is white and it has landing gear and 5 windows. In common, they both have wings, they fly, and they have a pilot. Now look at these 2 kites. Kite number 1 is blue and gold and it has ties on the string. Kite number 2 is colorful and it has no ties. But they both fly, they're both kites, and they're diamond shaped. This is a picture of the Wright brothers. When it comes to flight, they know all about it. Today, when most people think of the Wright brothers, they picture the intelligent, successful inventors of the first powered airplane. So you might be surprised to find out that Orville and Wilbur Wright were once mischievous students who never graduated from high school. Orville and Wilbur grew up in a large family in Dayton, Ohio. Their father, who was a newspaper editor as well as a church bishop, encouraged his sons to pursue their own intellectual interests. And from an early age, Orville and Wilbur Wright were fascinated by the mechanics and flying. Once, when caught by his teacher working on a toy helicopter in class, Orville explained that one day he planned to build a machine big enough to fly, carrying them both. In 1889, when he was only 18 years old, Orville left high school and started a printing business, using a press that he'd made himself. Wilbur joined the business, and they did very well. In 1893, when bicycling had become popular, the enterprising Wright brothers decided to open a bicycle repair shop across the street. Eventually, they were building and selling custom-made bicycles as well as repairing them. With 2 successful businesses, the brothers could afford to spend time on their other interests. They read everything they could get their hands on concerning aviation and aeronautics. Orville and Wilbur were especially interested in the experiments of other flight inventors, such as Octave Chanute in the United States and Otto Lilienthal in Germany. The Wright brothers were devastated when Lilienthal was killed by an unexpected gust of wind in a glider accident in 1890. Wilbur spent days in the library studying Lilienthal's designs and concluded that the trick to successful flight would be inventing a plane you could control and power. The Wright brothers would spend the next 13 years of their lives pursuing that dream. They achieved powered flight on December 17, 1903. Considering their enormous accomplishment, Orville and Wilbur were surprised when only 2 newspapers reported on their first flight. Many people suspected the Wright brothers were lying or had faked flights somehow. The Wright brothers also were suffering from money problems. Building airplanes is a very expensive hobby, and the Wright brothers needed a patent for their airplane design if they expected to ever earn any money from it. Otherwise, other people could just copy and sell their planes. Orville and Wilbur continued to improve their plane designs and also took to doing flight demonstrations in America and eventually also in Europe. Most people, it seemed, didn't believe in airplanes until they saw one with their own eyes. Finally, in 1909, President Theodore Roosevelt contacted the Wright brothers and signed a deal with them to build airplanes for the U.S. Army. They continued to design and manufacture airplanes until 1912 when Wilbur died of typhoid fever. Even though the Wright Plane Company continued to exist after Wilbur's death, Orville sold his shares and retired. He continued to act as a consultant to other scientists, but Orville would not invent again without his brother. So now you're going to use your sidewalk chalk that you got in your kit, and you're going to create a Venn diagram to compare and contrast the Wright brothers. On one side, you're going to have Wilbur, and on the other side of your Venn diagram, you're going to have Orville. In the middle, you'll have what they have in common. Remember, compare means to tell all of the ways 2 things are alike. Contrast means to tell all of the ways 2 things are different. The resources used in this video are Kittle Kids Encyclopedia, and Scholastic.com. Have fun making your Venn diagram, and I can't wait to see your comparing and contrasting of the Wright brothers.